All right, shading a sphere. Here's some of my basic instructions that kind of get us going now that we've played and experimented with some of our value pencils. Remember, we have, I think, a 3H, an H, an HB, a 2B, a 4B, a 6B. You should have a blending stump, okay? And so these are just some basic things to get us going as far as shading our sphere. All right, so moving these things off to the side here just a smidge, gonna keep them kind of in a pecking order so I know which pencil I'm grabbing. You can take a basic, anything to trace yourself, some kind of a circle. So right now I'm going to use my lightest pencil, my 3H pencil, and like I'm barely holding the pencil, right? I'm just kind of letting the weight of it define the circle space for me. So don't push down hard. We don't want to put a groove into the paper. You just want to draw it really lightly around your circle. Okay. From here, we want to determine where our light source is going to come from. So I'm going to choose this upper left-hand area, and we'll say the light is illuminating from up here. Okay. And then because it's shining up here, that means I'm just going to barely touch a little dots around there. That's kind of, my general rounded area where my highlight is going to happen, right? That means out on this side is where my shadow is going to happen. So I kind of look for the axis. Here's the axis, the vertical axis of my sphere. So somewhere around here, I'm going to pull out my shadow. And again, remember the shadow reference is that it's somewhat like an oval. Okay, it's a stretched oval for right now. So I'm going to take and just erase the little inside area there. Okay, so now we have our sphere base, our highlights kind of accentuated by just little bitty dots right now. And then I have the direction that my shadow is going in. And again, it's always opposite of your light. Okay, I find that for beginning students, it is difficult for you to kind of use a 3H pencil, super light pencil, right? It's really tough to try and get a very light value holding the pencil. Look how far away I am. Holding the pencil very far away and letting its side just kind of determine the lightest values. Okay, some folks really struggle with this, and I would suggest maybe flip your paper over, practice a little bit with holding your pencil back further on its side, nicely sharpened, right? And letting just the weight of the pencil do some of the value work, okay? If that's just not happening for you, okay? Another option is we'll play with some light, just a little bit different here, a little bit later, and we'll kind of incorporate a little bit of our blending stump, okay? Right now, we know that when we mapped our sphere, we have this area right down here at the bottom that is our reflected light. So I made a little notation down there, and that area needs to be some kind of an H pencil. So I'm just going to use my regular H pencil, okay, not the super, super light one, because it's going to have a little reflected light. It's not going to be pure, okay, from up above. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to very lightly kind of place in some H pencil, okay. Now I'm going to come in, and the very bottom here, we had talked about how the mapping at the bottom is going to be more of a 4B. So here's my 4B because this is the bottom side of the shadow. Okay, there's my 4B. I've got him sharpened as best that I can before it would break because I don't want it to break. But again, holding it lightly in kind of arcing, swooping motions. I'm swooping. That's not a good way to say swooping. But I am taking my pencil and lightly swooping. All right, I'm following the curve of the circle. Look at this. So whatever the circle is doing, I too am doing. Okay, I'm following up the side of it. Look at that, I'm creeping up the side. Okay, and I'm going to keep kind of the same movement going here. Now, I am not pushing very hard with the number 4 pencil. Okay, the goal is not to be super, super dark at this moment. We can always put more on there. It's harder to back it off. All right, again, now I'm lightening my hand pressure with the 4B pencil. I'm not really pushing much at all. I'm just letting some of the pencil very lightly plop itself on there. This is an important thing, is that just because I'm using this 4B pencil doesn't mean I'm using it at one pressure only. I started more here, and I have lessened my hand pressure on this significantly as I've come into the shadow spots. Okay, that means right now I'm going to put this down temporarily. That was my 4B. I'm going to pick up my 2B, or not 2B, right? All right, so there's my 2B, and I'm going to keep going now with my 2B, but very, very light pressure, because I want to match where I just stopped with my 4B pencil. So see, I'm kind of matching hand pressure wise where I last stopped, and I'm even going to start to lighten this pencil up a little bit as I come around the curves. Again, look how I'm still curving. I have to change my hand direction, right? I got to change the direction in which I'm moving around my hand on this stuff. But I'm starting to kind of lighten my hand pressure there too. All right, so now I'm going to back all the way down to an HB. Okay, HB, shiny, shiny. Going to do the same thing. Very, very light hand pressure here. Very light. Still following the circle. Okay, you cannot go super straight here. Straight equals flat a lot of times for beginning artist and shading. So you've got to, look, I'm still following a curve, man. I'm still curving, and I'm lightening up, and I'm lightening up, and I'm pulling a little bit around from behind. That's crazy. All right. Now, I know I need to start getting lighter and lighter and lighter, because I had that little area around here that I want to get. But again, for some people, they struggle with the H pencils. Okay, so if you struggle with the H pencils, one of the options is to use the blending stump, okay, that you have, to take a little bit of what we already have on the paper and begin to softly smudge it, still going in circles. All right, I'm still going this direction. All right, to soften and blend. And the more you kind of play as if this is sort of your paintbrush, all right, we begin to soften a little bit of these light areas, these light to light medium areas, okay? Look at that, okay? So I'm starting to smooth out. Now, what we don't want is we don't want to soften so much that we blur our sphere so that it looks like it's a bad photograph, okay? We're just kind of blending to push the value around right now, okay? Now, I'm not going to do my whole sphere this way, all right? In fact, I'm going to kind of work to the middle, and I'm going to very lightly lift off my hand pressure. Again, hand pressure is everything. I'm lightening my hand pressure, okay? And now I'm going to come back with my 4B pencil again, and we're going to work really dark here and start to fade ourselves out some more, okay? Because right now this is very monotone. This has some light, it has a bright highlight, it has a light area, it goes into something smudgy medium, and it's sort of dark, okay? Not totally. We need to get this to be, yes, it's dark. So I'm going to enrichen now with my 4B pencil. All right, push a little bit more. We're not taking a death grip or anything. Notice how I'm still back here on my pencil, right? But now I'm also trying to make the core of my sphere more weighted. Look at that. Already it's starting to feel like it's got a little bit more weight to the bottom of it. And I'm going to work my way back up my pencils. So we've got something of a basic sphere, right? We've got a bright highlight now, which we only touched once, really. All right, we swiped around it lightly with the value stump, and that was it, right? Otherwise, I left it alone, okay? It is the pure white paper that's out here, okay? We slowly worked from dark to light, and then we went back again, and we built up some more hand pressure, and we built up some more. So one of the keys to kind of building up a nice sphere is that you do it in more than one time, okay? It will not happen all at once. You got to slowly work your way. Otherwise, you're going to get too dark, okay? We now have our shadow. So we've done sort of our H's all the way to our B pencils to 4B. We went a little backwards, right, with our H to HB pencil right here for our reflected light. And now we need to work on the shadow. Remember, the shadow is on a table that's flat. Flat means horizontal for us. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to work with our darkest pencil, finally, okay? We're going to work with our 6B, because closest to the object is going to be the darkest. It's sitting right on top of it. You can see here on this pencil, when it lays here and the light's coming from over in this direction, how dark of a shadow is right next to this pencil. That's what's happening to this sphere. Because of our shadow being right next to our object, all right, I'm going to start by going along the edge of our object. Now, yes, I'm following the curve of it, but I'm also shading horizontally. All right, it's got to be going horizontal, coming out. Or many artists use a circular motion. So I'm kind of using sort of little mini ovals. And mini ovals don't really have a direction, do they? But I'm kind of following that this area up against the bottom of the sphere is very, very dark and rich. Look at that. All right, I'm going to push it more this way for us. All right, so I'm now going to change my hand pressure with this 6B pencil. So I'm lightening my hand pressure. This is a slow thing, okay? Don't try and shimmy it all the way out here, because we have more pencil changes out here. So I'm kind of going in little tiny ovals, and I am working my way out. And I'm going to lessen my hand pressure significantly here. See how that's a big change from that, right? Maybe a little too big. I'm going to lessen it here and lessen it. Now I'm going to go back to my 4B pencil. So here's my 4B, okay? And I want to try with this pencil to match where I faded out, right? So I'm going to start very lightly to match that same tone. It's going to make it just a little bit darker. Again, I'm kind of doing my little ovals, but I'm following horizontally here across the paper. So it's going left to right now. And then I'm going to continue to kind of fade with this pencil. Fading a bit. Fade some more of this hand pressure. And then I'm going to fade out a little bit more with my 2B pencil. There's my 2B. All right, and this is sort of the end, right? I want to try and match what I've just done here. So I'm very light-handed here. And I'm coming to the end. Okay. Now, I'm going to look and see if there's anywhere I want to enrichen or crispen still, and there is. I'm going to now use sort of a tighter hold. I'm going to cover up my sphere because I don't want to damage or smudge my sphere. So you can do this with a Kleenex or any scrap piece of paper, just so you can rest your hand and not get it all over the back of your hand, or to damage the nice shading work you've already done with your pencils. I'm going to come in now with a tighter detail hold, all right? And I'm going to come in here and push nice and firmly with my 6B pencil, and I'm going to do horizontal movements because I really want this area right underneath the sphere to be really, really, really dark. And then I'm going to try and lighten my hand pressure. And now I'm getting lighter. Notice I'm doing this like I did the sphere, right? We started with an initial dark, and now I'm kind of pushing, you know, and taking it a little bit further, but I am still fading out. All right, I'm going to kind of end it right there. So we have this sphere where there's a great deal of shadow and weight being reflected here because of our light source that we had up on the top left. Okay, I can even take, if you want to, many times people will use their blending stumps to kind of just very ever so lightly fuzz a little bit of the edge of the actual shadow. A lot of times, you know, our shadows are a little bit fuzzier right at the edge. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing just a smidgen of that on the end. All right, so that was us working with our blending stump and all of our value pencils to create that full range of values, and we went over each section at least twice to kind of give those full richness of values without going overboard.